Hello everybody, the Great Dino Ranger here again, back with another review. Today we're going to take a look at another Jurassic World Rebirth figure from Mattel, and that is the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus. So finally, I've been able to get my hands on the Rebirth Mosasaurus figure from Mattel, and I'm really excited about this one because, first of all, at the point of this recording, I actually have already seen the movie once so far, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the movie, and with that, I loved the Mosasaurus. I love its design. I love its whole, the whole time it was on screen in the movie, it was just awesome. So it was obviously fitting to finally be able to pick up this figure because I just loved it so much in the film, and I'm super happy that it's a brand new sculpt and brand new colors. This might be even the best Mosasaurus in the franchise, even better than the original one from the last trilogy. So but we'll get into all this during the review. Let's take a look at the packaging for the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus. As you can see, it's water-based. You can see the ocean back there. You got the really cool Mosasaurus render right there, looking awesome. Bite and Blast Mosasaurus, Jurassic World Rebirth. You got the boat logos. It says "Try Me." Shows you some action features. Apparently, it can spit out a Dilophosaurus, and it can thrash. So this Mosasaurus has some action features this time, which is something we didn't see in the originals that they released. But it's really cool, and I'm also really happy that it's not electronic, as it should be. So this one's it says Jurassic World Rebirth on both sides, and then on the back shows you some more stuff. And as you can see, this part is open, so you can test out the thrashing feature. You got some facts up information. It says included the little Dilophosaurus. It says chomp and side-to-side action. I guess you could say thrashing, but I think it's supposed to be swimming. And it says blast out, and then as you can see, it's part of the water territory. So that is super awesome. So yeah, and by the way, this is not the only thing I found at Walmart. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what the next one is in the next review. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this awesome Mosasaur. Alrighty, so here we have the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus out of the box. And I gotta say, putting it together, it is a really awesome Mosasaurus figure. It actually probably is my favorite Mosasaurus figure from Mattel, or at least from any Jurassic toy line in general. But yeah, I think this is definitely the best Mosasaurus that we've gotten from Mattel, and I think it has like the better design and well, probably like at least the better design and the better colors, in my opinion. We'll get more into that later in the review. There is some assembly required. You have to attach these two fins. These two fins come detached, so you just have to pop them in, and then you have to put in the other half of the tail, and then that's pretty much all you have to do. Other than that, it's a solid figure. It's a really great figure. And yeah, we'll start at the little Dilophosaurus that it came with. This is the little mini Dilophosaurus that it accompanied this figure, and it's a nice one. Overall, it's just the same Dilophosaurus that came with the, I think, like the very first wave of minis for the Fallen Kingdom toy line, because it's like the exact same sculpt. However, it's more painted like the newer minis. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, there's not a whole lot to really talk about other than it's pretty much the same mini, except it's painted in a really cool color. The paint really reminds me of the Fallen Kingdom Dilophosaurus, the little attack pack that we got. That's like this shade of green, a little bit of like a dark green on it, and had like the red colored frill and crest. So that, I don't know, it reminds me of the Fallen Kingdom one. But I won't be surprised if this is supposed to be reminiscent or a reference to the Dilophosaurus scene in Rebirth, which only appeared very briefly in that movie, but it was a really different color design for the Dilophosaurus. I mean, in terms of the frill, it had like warm colored tones in the frill with a lot of black spots. Now, obviously, that's not really captured on this figure, but they did get like the body green and the warm toned crest and frill, so maybe that's what they're trying to go for. I'm not entirely sure. It's even got a little black dot for the eye, but overall sculpt, It looks pretty nice. It's pretty much the same like the previous miniature Dilophosaurus. At least that's what I'm going to assume. I don't collect the minis. I did get like the big pack with a bunch of the minis for the Fallen Kingdom line, and that's pretty much the only ones I have. But yeah, colors are nice too. This one's, instead of hard plastic, is actually of a softer rubber. So this thing is like all like bendy, and so I thought that was pretty cool. But overall, a pretty cool looking figure, I would say. Now we get on to the Mosasaurus, and this figure is fantastic. Like I said, the Mosasaurus in Jurassic World Rebirth is awesome. The entire sequence that we saw, it was just amazing. And I have to say this Mosasaurus, both in terms of the toy and the movie, I think is the best design of the Mosasaurus in the franchise, even more so than the one from the last trilogy, the World Trilogy. That one was awesome. I love that one too. But sometimes you can't go wrong with scientific accuracy, and that's what I love about this Mosasaurus. It's a lot more, I guess, elongated, maybe torpedo shaped for the lack of a better term. It's got the tail fluke at the end. It's not covered in lots of crocodilian looking scales. It's got some bumps here and there, but it's nothing too dramatic. But I just love the scientific accuracy of this Mosasaurus, and to me that is a lot better than the original Jurassic World Mosasaurus. And plus, I love the colors too. I love like the really cool use of counter shading with the dark colors on the top and the light colors on the bottom. And I love the green colors too with the darker markings. Like, this Mosasaurus is just awesome. So yeah, I love this one a lot more. Hopefully we can see it again in like the next movie if they're gonna do more, which I hope they do. I want to see tons of Jurassic movies, so we just have an endless bottomless pit of just fun Jurassic movies to watch. That's what I want. But taking a look at the sculpt right here, starting with the head, it's very similar to the Jurassic World Mosasaurus, the first one. However, there's like some added stuff to it that makes it look a bit more accurate to a real Mosasaurus. It's got a little bit more of a thinner head shape, I guess. But obviously this is a toy. It's not exactly identical to what you see in the film, but it pretty much gets the main idea down. But I love the detail in the skin, and I like how the skin isn't covered in scales like the previous figure, but more of like a smoother tone with just a lot of this line texture. Because I feel like if you were to put this in the water, once you take it out of the water, it's got like this nice, like wet, shiny look to it, like a water animal. So that's really cool. So it doesn't really need a whole lot of detail on it. You can see a lot of the line textures, some small little bumps in the skin right here, looking really nice. The sculpt and the skull looks really great as well. Same with the eyes, they look great. Some little parts of the skull kind of poking through the skin right there. Here at the top of the head, looking very nice. You can see some more of the muscles and skin are attached around the skull. You got the little nostrils on the top of the snout as well, looking very nice. Same with the lower jaw, some nice smoother texture with a little bit of some bumpy texture here and there. Inside the mouth is amazing on this figure. 10 times better than the original figures that we've gotten from Mattel. The mouth is amazing. First of all, we've got the separate molded teeth, which is a huge plus. They're not painted this time, so they're not going to get scuffed, and they're able to look a lot more sharper because they're a molded rubbery plastic, so they're able to look sharp without actually being sharp. So they're all like this, made of this rubbery material, and it looks great. The teeth are just amazing on this figure. The tongue looks great too. The entire inside, I like how it's painted like this glossy coat to give it like that wet saliva look, which is awesome. Got the same with the little tendons right there. And I think one of the coolest parts about this mouth is the second row of teeth at the top right here. Now what's awesome is that on the previous figures of the Mosasaurus, these teeth were not painted. They were sculpted, but they were not painted. Right here, they're not painted either. They're the separate molded rubber pieces coming through the plastic, which is awesome. it just gives it that more realistic and just more detailed look to it. They're also rubbery as well, but they just look so good being the same color as the teeth because it just feels more complete. And you can see some more nice detail in the roof of the mouth as well. Smoother, slippery texture. You can see the inside of the mouth, which is part of the action feature. Now, another thing I love too is how this mosasaur has lips. So when it closes its mouth, the teeth aren't hanging out, unlike the other figure, which the other figure couldn't even close its mouth all the way, but the teeth were always showing. I love how this one has lips like a real Mosasaurus, or at least the current reconstructions of Mosasaurus. So that is really, really cool. Moving on to the body, you got some wonderful use of some skin wrinkles and folds right here on the body, nicely sculpted, especially around the fins and around this area of the body in between the fins, some more around the back fins, and some more of this detail along the edge of the tail. Other than that, it's a lot of that smoother lined texture, which looks really nice actually, and then a little bit of some bumps in the skin coming out as well. And that pretty much continues all the way down to the tip of the tail. Even on the top of the body, you got like these, I guess, some osteoderms or some scutes on it, which are a lot more pronounced on this figure than it is in the film. In the film, there isn't really any scutes present, but you can tell that the skin is very bumpy on the top, but you don't see any actual presence of scutes. It's just like, it's as if, you know, all these scutes were actually hidden underneath the skin and they were just pushing up against it, giving it like that bumpy texture without actually seeing physically the scutes on top. So at least it's somewhat accurate, but they didn't actually show it like this. But at least it's not like the crocodilian looking pattern on the other one, which I didn't have a problem with that one, but I just love how if you're gonna do an accurate Mosasaurus, I prefer it without any scutes on it. But at least this is a lot better than the previous one. But overall, they look really nicely detailed, I would say. And they pretty much get smaller as you get lower down in the body. And they disappear right here at the tail, right before the attached piece goes on. Even here on the tail, I got some more of that line texture. And that pretty much continues all the way down to the tail fluke, which looks awesome. Not the best. It's definitely a lot better on the Super Colossal than on this figure. I feel like this one's just a little bit too elongated. I feel like if they kind of made it a bit more like how it is in the film, which is a bit more of like a fish-like tail, though looking more like an actual realistic tail fluke, that would have been a lot better. But at least they got the main consensus down with the little part right here sticking up and the longer part that kind of droops down. But overall, it's nice. I like it. It's not terrible, but I kind of wish it was something like the Super Colossal. But like I said, some more nice detail along the tail and along the little fin area up top, looking really nice. Now this part is also made out of not a super soft rubber, but it's kind of bendy. It's more solid than the rest of the figure. And then here on the flippers are very different too. They're a lot more pointy and a lot more smaller. These front flippers are a lot larger than the back flippers. That's something that is pretty accurate to the one in the film. And they look really nice too. Really smooth texture, except for some of the lines here on the edge of the flipper and some more of the bumps, which could be barnacles, but they could be just the bumpy skin texture. But they look really great though, the flippers. And here on the black flippers, some more of that really cool line texture on the back right here at the edge, which looks really nice, and some more of that smooth texture. And yeah, now one of the cooler parts right here is on the underside. The flippers look the same on the underside, but the entire rest of the underbelly of the Mosasaurus, at least from the lower jaw all the way through the body, and at least just to this part, has like these really cool lined sculpts in the, or lined sculpt, excuse me, I'm messing up my words today. It's got some really nice lines sculpted into the figure right here on the underside, which is again very accurate to the Mosasaurus in Rebirth, and it's also really reminiscent to modern day whales. Lots of whales have this lined looking texture or appearance on the underside of their mouths. Not sure about their stomachs, but I do know like the lower jaw, where they would usually help, like where it expands when they're scooping up a big like gallon of water to capture all the fish and stuff in it, as like those lines underneath like the throat area. That's kind of like what the Mosasaurus has right here, which I think those lines help it for some reason. I think they maybe help it allow it to capture that much water by expanding their jaw like that. So kind of weird to have it on a Mosasaurus. I mean, you can't really do it to his stomach. So I'm sure it's just a really cool design choice that the creators of the film wanted to add to the Mosasaurus. I'm sure it has no actual gimmick to it, to the animal in the film, unless they say this Mosasaurus had some whale DNA spliced in it or something. I don't know, but it's a really cool design choice, I would say. I really do love the whale looking line textures on the bottom of this Mosasaurus. It gives it more of like a marine animal vibe to it than the first Jurassic World one, in my opinion. And the texture is pretty much the same on the body for the rest of the tail. So sculpt wise, excellent figure. Paint job, like I said before, the paint, I love the paint. I love the counter shading with the dark colors on the top and the light colors on the bottom. The entire base color is like this really dark forest green color, which looks amazing. And then you got the front half more of like this dark black color for the primary top of the head, and then it kind of stripes down on this part of the body. Everything else is like this darker brown, so it fades into this brown, and then it fades into a almost like maybe like a dark brown, or maybe the same black as the head, but the brown fades into this dark color all the way for the rest of the tail. But at least you can see that green kind of fade into it onto this tail, so at least it doesn't stop right there. So I like that. It makes it feel a little bit more realistic. Then here on the head, you got a little bit more of that green on the face, which makes it pop, kind of adding a little bit more detail to it. You even got a little bit of a brown on the tip of the snout. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but it is present there. And on the underside is just this light cream color, which looks really good as well. And that continues down to the tail, and it fades into that brown, so it doesn't just abruptly stop. So I love how it just kind of fades into it, kind of make it more realistic. And the flippers are that green color as well, but only the front flippers have like this brown tips to it. Would have been cool to see if the back ones had that too, but you know, it is what it is. Now the eyes are painted in a nice yellow color, makes it pop and stand out against the dark colors with a black pupil. Pretty sure the one in the film had a slit pupil, but oh well. The inside of the mouth is molded in like this fleshy pink color, very typical for all these Mattel Jurassic World dinosaurs. And then the teeth are molded in like a yellowish white color, much different than the color here on the body. But overall, it just looks so good. I love it. And so yeah, the colors are amazing on this Mosasaurus. Now, for articulation, before we get on to action features, there isn't a whole lot. Majority of it is based on the action feature. You got a little bit of this movement right here, but that's due to the action feature. This part of the tail, though, can swivel 360, but obviously I don't have any use for that, so I just kind of keep it like that. Now, each flipper can move pretty much the same like the previous Mosasaurs. The back flippers can go up and down, get some nice swimming poses, and they move very nicely too on this one. And they can rotate, they just kind of ratchet or click, but that's really cool. Same with the front flippers. Whoa, almost knocked down my camera. All right, so they can just go down like that, up like that, and they can also rotate. Kind of stiff, but not terrible. They just rotate. So the flippers on the older figures moved a lot better than this one, I would say. But that's pretty much all we have for the articulation. And oh yes, I forgot about the scan code right here on the flippers. Going back to the OG ways from like the Fallen Kingdom days. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything else is due to the action feature. So there's two different action features right here. Technically three, actually, if you want to think about it. This first one here is on the tail, this little segment right here, which gives it a swimming motion. So if you were to slide it from side to side, the whole front part of the figure here swings side to side. You could say it's a thrashing action, but I think it's supposed to represent swimming. Like it's just swimming in the water. You can do it much slowly too if you want to make it look a bit more realistic. But yeah, it just swings left and right. That's pretty much all it does. And then you got a button right here on the tail, which controls the mouth. which really is really cool. I love having that in this figure. You can even see it from this side as well. Nice wide open pose right there. Sadly, you can't position it. I will say this too, it's nice having the Mosasaurus with some action features, but there is nothing wrong with having one with no action features, just a cool animal you can put in the water, which this one does not come with electronics, so it's gonna go in the water anyway. But now the other main gimmick, which is why it's called the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus, is apparently it spits out this Dilophosaurus. Now, weirdly enough, during the New York Toy Fair earlier this year, Mattel stated that when they see an animal do something in the film, they want to capture that in toy form. Yeah, I don't know what the heck they were talking about, because in the film, the Mosasaurus does not spit anything out, and it clearly does not eat a Dilophosaurus and spit it out. So I don't know what they were thinking when it comes to spitting something out. So I don't know if there was like an early draft of the film where it was doing something and they wanted to tell Mattel to have a toy do something like that. I don't know where the heck that came from, but after seeing the movie, there was none of that. So I don't know where that came from. Same with the T-Rex having like the light up LED inside the mouth. I'm not sure if that red's supposed to signify blood. I don't know. It's kind of weird how they did that. The only one that made sense was like the Spinosaurus. It's in a cool swimming position with the tail and the neck, but it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's interesting, but it is cool for the toy purposes. I mean, if it wasn't going to be in the film, I wouldn't have given it this feature at all. Just given it just the plain chomping feature, and that's really it. So what you do is you take the Dilophosaurus and you put it inside the mouth. Make sure it's in there fully good. And apparently it's supposed to spit it out. So if you were to push the button, there's a little button on the inside that is like a little lever that pushes out whatever is inside the mouth. So it's like a launcher, I guess. So let's go ahead and test it out. 3, 2, 1. See, it kind of worked. I don't want to hit it too far. I don't want it to knock it off the table here. Let's try it again. I'll try to give it a little bit more force to it. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I messed up on that one. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. So if you can give it some force, it'll work too, but I think it would also work regardless. But that's really cool. I think that's a really cool and fun feature, I will say. It's definitely fun, even though it's not accurate to the film at all. Yeah, see? That's really cool. So you can kind of see inside the mouth. If I just keep it open, you can see the little lever that just pushes it in and out. I'm sure you can make it eat it too if you wanted to. But yeah, so let's get on to some comparisons. All right, so first comparison here is the Mosasaurus compared with a human. Now, this is not accurate to how it was in the film. In the film, it was just massive, such a massive figure. And it's just kind of crazy to to see it kind of downsized for the purpose of being a toy. I guess if you want it to be accurate, you'd want to use the super colossal Mosasaurus. But I don't have room for any super colossals. That's why I don't collect those. I just collect just the mainline figures that are in scale and everything. But overall, for just a basic Mosasaurus figure, this size works really well. It could work well for maybe a scientifically accurate Mosasaurus in a way. Maybe it's a tad bit bigger if it were to do that. But still, I like this size a lot. It works really good compared to a human figure. So I really love this size, regardless if it's accurate or not. All right, next up, we're gonna compare it with my first ever Mattel Jurassic World figure, and also my very first Mosasaurus from Mattel, and that is the original Mosasaurus figure from the Fallen Kingdom toy line back in 2018. I think this was also called the Real Feel Mosasaurus. But yeah, as you can see, there's a huge difference between these two, not only in terms of design from two different films, but just overall quality of the figure in a way. There's nothing wrong with this figure at all. I love it. I mean, maybe it would have been better if the tail wasn't sticking up like that, and maybe if the tail was a tad bit longer, but other than that, it was a solid figure. For being like my very first Mosasaurus from Mattel, a large one at that, and my first figure from Mattel, it was an awesome figure, and it still is. And I love how it has the real feel skin to it. And overall, it's just an awesome figure. Compare it to the new one anyway. As you can see, the second row of teeth up there are not painted, which is another thing that I liked about this one, that they're actually painted, or at least sculpted like that. But yeah, seeing these two together look really great. This one's obviously a bit bigger, because it's just, I mean, it's just overall, it's kind of thicker, as you can see right here. A lot more thicker. This one's a lot more thinner, which is really cool too. So it's kind of like thick right here, and then it just kind of slowly starts to get skinny. This one's just overall pretty thick. And as you can see, the difference in the flippers, a lot more pointy on these ones and a tad bit smaller, and these ones are a lot more thicker. But it's really cool to see how these two compared. Man, I'll tell you, I would have loved to have a giant Mosasaurus as a kid. When I'm playing with my Jurassic Park figures, I would have totally taken it to the pool, have my characters, you know, literally try to escape a Mosasaurus. And I probably would actually enjoy this one a bit more, but maybe I'll like this one. I don't know. Right now, though, I like this one a lot more. But I just like seeing how different these two are together. You can just see the overall difference in the head sculpts. They're just great figures. So yeah, I love how these two are compared with each other. And then next, we'll just throw in the Ocean Protector Mosasaurus, which is pretty much the same like the original one that I just showed. However, just different colors, and it's got a different shaped tail. It's got articulation, it's got the larger tail end back there, which is a lot better. So I definitely like the look of sculpt wise of this one more than the previous one, though I probably like the blue colors in the other one a bit more. But overall, it still doesn't compare to how good this new one is. I love this new one 10 times more than the other ones, despite how good I say they are. But yeah, they look really nice together, roughly the same size as the older one. This one's a bit smaller. They might be roughly the same length. I think this one may be a tad bit shorter. I'm not entirely sure, but it's really cool to see both of these ones compared as well. Alright everyone, so that's about to wrap it up for this review. I love this Mosasaurus figure. Definitely the best Mosasaurus that Mattel has made, in my opinion. I just love the sculpt and the colors. I just love the more scientific accuracy look to it. And obviously I loved it in the film. That's kind of also increasing my love for this design of the Mosasaurus. No disrespect to the original Jurassic World Mosasaurus. That one will always be cool. Regardless. So yeah, I highly recommend this figure as well, I would say. I mean, you could always get the super colossal one if you wanted, but for just a cool Mosasaurus toy, this is the one you want. I think this one's just, it's everything you would want in a Mosasaurus, even though it would have been cool if it had the real feel skin and maybe didn't have so many action features to it. But overall, it does look really cool. I'm glad it doesn't have electronics, so that's a huge plus right there. But overall, I think it's just a really great figure, and I highly recommend it. It's got the better teeth and everything, so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again for the next video.